So, hello everyone, and welcome. I have one of my great friends here, Melanie Beckler from Ask Angels, with me today. I'm so grateful that she's here.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. I'm really excited to have her on today because we're going to be talking about conscious awakening, which is different than spiritual awakening. We'll talk about the differences and the beauty, the challenges, the opportunity of conscious awakening, self initiated spiritual path, developing the inner skills, the soul development for our spiritual selves, but also for just everyday balance, for serenity, for all of the good things on the everyday level. Because I think sometimes we're like, woohoo, we get to develop these other things and kind of go out there. But all of these things translate back into our lives as well, which is very enriching.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the reasons that I was like, Melanie, let's do this. Let's have another conversation is because this woman is the real deal. And I've wanted to kind of do an aftermath of your big endeavor into truly self-initiated deepening in your path. I think that especially for say like online spiritual influencers or whatever, there's this idea of like, okay, we're on the path, we're doing the work, and we are. But there's a next level calling that you definitely heeded the call and went deep into and changed and went on this super deep immersive path that didn't look like what I guess it would be needed, to maintain, say, like your followers or do these certain things, but it was for the soul. And I think that that's tremendous because that's what everyone needs. If you're leading and you're sharing, it's like we want the best of you and we want the best of me and of each other. And so you've been on this journey up the mountain, doing all these deep initiations. And now you're coming back down to the village to share what you've learned, over these deep immersive years. And my first question is, who are you now? Like, who were you when you started? And who are you now? What's that change and what's that difference that you feel inside and what you've cultivated?
Juicy question to
To lead with.
who are you at the depth of your core? But I
Yes.
think that really is a pertinent question because as human beings, we are all multidimensional beings, but we all have learned through matrix programming, through literally just developing brains as human beings and learning so much from our parents, from society, from the culture at large. We've learned to wear all of these masks to fit into society, even the mask of being a human being, when beneath that and at the core, at the heart, at the level of soul, we access this inner stream of light that lifts up into the higher dimensions, into the more subtle realms of light and spirit, where we remember that, yes, I'm a human being, but I am divine. And I think my depth of journey into my heart, into developing inner skills, into really like becoming conscious about clearing my subtle energy bodies and illuminating my energy field, I have not only this intellectual, logical understanding that I am a divine being and that the divine is inherently present in everyone and everything, but there's this tangible experience of that in my meditation and in moving into the world, really like being in that divine essence as a multidimensional being in the physical. And I think the other thing that this journey has really like stirred and cultivated within me is I've always had a strong desire to be of service. I've always known deep down that I'm here to serve the light, to serve the divine, to serve humanity. But there's a greater maturity, maybe a
Mm.
greater understanding in what that means for me now and where there's a need for support for a lot of people, of what I'm seeing in the landscape of where I needed to develop, where I certainly still need to develop, but then where I can now take what I've learned to serve humanity. So did that answer the question of who am I?
I feel that it did because I can feel the transmission and the translation of your words as embodiment, right? And this living emanation rather than that first layer. I feel like that we all get. It's like, okay, we need to reprogram this mind, to even start to comprehend on an intellectual level, our divinity, us beyond the human. And so that it sounds like what you're saying, and it feels like what you're saying is that embodied experience of the more of who you are as an eternal being.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you used that word embody, because I think that's just such a key and such an important piece of the journey that not everyone who's even teaching or
Yeah.
sharing about spirituality is actually living,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a big difference between intellectually understanding and even having an incredible a spiritual experience and journeying within, or sipping a magical potion and blowing your mind wide open and experiencing, oh my God, I am God. But then to anchor that within the 3D world, to embody that within the physical vessel, within the key energy centers, within the physical form, to embody the soul. And this might be jumping
Go
ahead a
for
little.
it.
Okay. I think embodying the soul is one of these things that is of the utmost importance for humanity, for
Mm.
all of us right now, to really come into an intellectual understanding of what is the soul, what does that entail, and then to not only understand that we have a soul, but to claim and embody and express that soul impulse out through us, through our words, through our actions, through how we live our life. And this has always been important. This has always been a core facet of the awakening journey. But now, in this new timeline we're on, in this world of AI emerging, where we're able to, at a press of the button, write an entire article from AI, or like create beautiful artwork from AI, to be able to discern, is there soul behind something? And we can only do that if we ourselves are embodying soul. And there's always been an impulse in me anyway, and maybe it comes from my religious background, that having my soul within me is innate, is guaranteed. But with what I understand now, we can become cut off from soul. We can become cut off from soul through thoughts, through emotions, through distortions, through programs, through limiting beliefs, the ego, essentially, that builds this like cage around our physicality that can block that stream of the divine, that Christ light stream, that divine consciousness stream from source that journeys down through the higher self, through our guides and angels, through our soul. And then we have this choice: do we anchor that within our physical structure? Do we anchor that through our inspired action? Are we embodying that in our life? And when we do, there's this magical flow of joy, of ease, of connection, of inspiration, of well-being, of love, because embodying the soul ultimately is that path of love, where we move out of ego, that fear-based construct, that negatively oriented programming, to be in that flow of love. It's just so beautiful and so powerful. And it's also very grounded. It's not about
Mm.
like flying up and journeying, and like all those things are great, but we are here as physical beings for a reason. And so bringing all of that higher consciousness and light into the physical world, where we can play with it and create with it and change this world with it, is really the the phase, I think, of evolution that humanity's in now. And it's so powerful, and the doors of opportunity are open. It's a choice, though,
Yeah.
about you go in that direction, whether we choose to walk the path.
Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, there's so much here. Thank you for that. That was an incredible transmission. And I like one of the key pieces in that is when you are embodied, when you have that soul, uh, everything online and moving and streaming, there's discernment then to see other soul, and that's like a key element in there. It's like one of our main tools right now in this world of chaos and not understanding, is that discernment that the soul development brings. So I loved that that was a piece in there. Okay, so I want to bring in these elements because we have some new working definitions and words and concepts that we want to bring into the really the spiritual online world. It's like, okay, these are new upgrades, and I'm totally with you on all of these pieces. And for those of you who are listening on YouTube, because it's easy to get kind of bounced out of this, you can listen to the full recording on Wild and Awake, my podcast, and the links are below so that you can listen to the whole thing, and not just, oh, this disappeared, because we're in long form content right now, which is exciting, which is part of the development, I think, is like, okay, we can't talk about this in 12 minutes, we need like this longer form space for this to develop, and really go into the depth of things. So let's back up for a moment, which will go back into soul and go back into that development and talk about the difference between conscious awakening and spiritual awakening.
Yeah, I love you like pinged me this morning about asking this question, and it was like, yes, this is so it, because right now on planet Earth, you may or may not have noticed, there's a massive collective awakening that's happening, which I see as literally an impulse from source, an impulse from the divine, and rising up from within the earth to bring humanity into a new consciousness, ultimately into a more love-centered, heartfelt, connected, collaborative society. And in the evolution of this, in the transition, in moving out of the Kali Yuga, the past Yuga, moving into the Satya Yuga, the age of truth, to throw a little esoteric buzzword in there.
Thanks.
Humanity's awakening. And so to an extent, this is happening automatically. But when we become conscious of the process of where we are and where our strengths are, where our weaknesses are, and then also becoming conscious that throughout history, across the world, in a variety of different schools and mystery schools and esoteric lineages, there has been preserved a technology for awakening. That's a collection of knowledge, of esoteric teachings, of practices, of rituals, of ceremonies, these facets of the technology that we can leverage to accelerate our awakening journey, to ease the struggle and challenges on our awakening journey. And then, as you mentioned in the intro, to build inner skills that empower us as infinite spiritual beings to navigate physical reality, to navigate the external world around us. And it comes, or there's like the concept of how to raise your vibration. And if you look on YouTube, and I think I even have like a video like this, it's like raise your vibration, like ground and connect with nature, leverage crystals, tune into life force of plants. And that's all true and beautiful, but that's just one layer. And when you drop down deeper, when you look at the beings who have literally mastered themselves and mastered life in this dimension, they're able to go into an incredibly harsh situation and be fully in that God expanded state. And that only becomes possible through having the inner skills to be able to not be triggered by things that happen in the external. Or if you are triggered, to then quickly become aware of that and have the tools and resources to transmute, to heal, to resolve that, to peel back the layers, to allow that divine essence to once again flow through. So
Gosh, that's making me so excited because it feels like there was spiritual awakening 1.0 that say maybe happened in this, segment of humanity in the past like 10 years or something, and there were certain keynote features of it. There was like spiritual awakening, and once you have your spiritual awakening, you're awake and like you're kind of good. Like there was something about that was a part of the narrative. And then also once you had your spiritual awakening and then you became available to more, then you also, in tandem with that, was this high level of empathy, being an empath. And that also came with hypersensitivity, and then things were too much. And then along with that were these ideas of also these heightened spiritual experiences where it's like, actually, we're just little spiritual junkies wanting the next hit, of some powerful transcendent experience to get us through the mundane of everyday life. And so those were some of the features I feel like of like spiritual awakening 1.0. And now as you're sharing, I'm like, yes, this is like conscious awakening 2.0. And in 2.0, there's many different things. And through this, I want you to talk more about these developing of these soul skills versus just these heightened, powerful spiritual experiences, but these soul skills, which is developing the soul and creating that resilience, because we can have the resilience where we don't get hyper triggered or like thrown off by these even massive things happening in the world. It's slow by slow, but the next level is like that we can hold a lot more and stay balanced through the storm. So can you talk about that cultivation and what those differences are?
yeah, absolutely. Because let's be real, like phase two of spiritual awakening is not easy. It's not easy to face all of your deeply suppressed trauma and emotional wounds and personal shortcomings and shortfallings. But like that's essentially what we're talking about, is being radically honest about where you truly are, not where I wish I was, but where I am now. And then where I am now, where are the areas that I'm getting tripped up and where can I improve and develop? So it's interesting in talking about this. I feel like I want to share a little story from my personal experience.
Oh,
And
please. I'm all
that
about
that
that.
in itself, I think, is like a milestone and marker about my own evolution and how doing these practices and contemplation and meditation really works. Because for me, in Awakening 1.0, we'll say, I developed the energy centers to be able to lift into a very high frequency, to connect with the angels and archangels and ascended masters and transmit their messages and frequency and love, which is so beautiful and is going to continue to be a part of my work. I still love working with the angels. But in going really deep in meditation, deep inside of myself, I unknowingly entered into this process because I now understand that to really grow and progress on this path of mastery, there needs to be both construction, building up the energy centers to access spirit, accessing the incredible light, lifting in that light, having the experiences, all of those things we know and love. But then the thing that isn't as enjoyable is we also need deconstruction. We need to go in and deconstruct the things that aren't working. There's like the Socrates story about where, or I think it was Socrates, but a student goes to the master for a tea party, and the master starts pouring their cup of tea and fills the cup, and the cup gets fuller and fuller, and then the cup starts pouring out all over the table. And the student's like, "What are you doing? My cup is full." And he's like, "Exactly. How can I teach you anything if your cup is already full?" So deconstruction is essential in order to like take that leap to the next level.
Hmm.
So my soul, beautifully and without my conscious awareness, but through my dedication, devotion, and commitment to meditating daily. So I've been meditating daily for like over 5 years. But then in the past 3 years, I've really like stepped that up to like meditate daily, like doing a lot of meditation. And that brought about this deconstructive process, specifically in my emotional body, where all of this past trauma, sorrow, sadness started coming up to the surface of my awareness, to the point where when I would start to like vulnerably share from my heart, there would just be tears. Like I couldn't speak vulnerably and open heartedly about certain things, specifically like around my own shortfallings and shortcomings without like just bawling and losing it. And it was that deconstructing these emotional patterns and traumas and things that had been built up. But then because of that, and I think in a way I was blessed that it was like so obvious that my emotional body needed some work. So I dove into it, working with mentors and teachers about how can I clear and center my emotional body. I started doing Kriya yoga and these breath work practices to clear and elevate the emotional body, in addition to an immense amount of mindfulness and awareness practice and contemplation and soul retrieval and all of these pieces to build the inner skill of centering my emotional body when I need to, of discerning when an emotional pattern comes up and being able to distinguish that between emotion and then the thoughts or stories that are also present alongside the emotion. And that is an inner skill now. Now, when I have an emotion come up, I don't just spiral into it. I'm able to observe it. There's a level of awareness about, okay, I have this emotion. I'm able to acknowledge it, accept it, and then determine how to work with it. Do I just need to feel it in order to release, or is there like a pattern? Is there a belief system, a story that I need to dive into to clear and resolve that from my field? So other examples of inner skills, being able to focus the mind. In my course, that I think we'll talk more about later, we really are diving into some deep practices for conscious awakening, starting with the foundation of focusing the mind. Because if you can't focus your mind, you really aren't going to be able to do a lot of the more advanced practices that unlock this technology of awakening that's been preserved by gurus and priestesses and adepts and initiates over the ages. The prerequisite is focus. But there's simple, easy meditative practices in order to train the mind to focus, which then not only can you go deeper into your personal spiritual practice, but then in day-to-day life, if these crazy thoughts come up, you're like able to just be aware of it and refocus the mind on the breath, on your intention, on wherever it is you consciously are choosing to focus thought. So inner skills are essential because we have our whole inner world experience. It's like our thoughts, our emotions, our mental pictures, our whole internal experience. And then we have our external world experience. And when we're truly coming into a state of mastery in the inner world, and I'm not saying I'm fully there yet, but I'm aware of this as the task of gaining mastery. When we master the inner world, it doesn't matter what's happening around in the external. We're still able to embody this heightened vibration of love, to embody the soul that's a whole other piece of the actual technology of being able to anchor the soul in the key energy centers within the physical body. But when we have that inner mastery, the external world mastery sort of takes care of itself. That's not to say there's not action to take, there's not things to do in the external, but I think the awakening 1.0, or like the innate human default, is when things are going wrong in the external world, the ego mind's like, this is not okay, fix this now. And we like kind of start like flailing, like, oh my God, I need to move, so then I'll be okay. I need to get a new job, so then I'll be okay. I need to do XYZ, and then I'll finally be happy. But the truth is that cultivating joy within whatever the circumstances in the external is what brings true happiness. We can get temporary happiness from buying a new car. You're so excited about the car for a couple of weeks, and then it's just a normal car, and there's no more of that like rush of happiness. Or buy flowers from the farmer's market, and I'm so happy and excited about the flowers, and then that wanes. But the joy we cultivate in our inner world through building skills, that's it. That's truly transformational, of changing who we are, changing our form into a more conscious, present, joyful being. And we can then bring that into every situation, even the harsher environments in the external.
I love all of that. And I appreciate having kind of just venturing around the world, like experiencing all these different like schools and techniques. And I have too in my own various travels. And in those, I think that we're all about this like elevation, like you were saying, getting higher and higher in our vibration and stuff. But the deconstruction, and I really like that term that you're using, because there's something about it that's like clearing space, and dismantling, and almost like, okay, we're gonna move this stuff out, rather than the energy of like shadow work, which then can just be this other like spiral thing that we get lost into. And so I love that deconstructing, and I have noticed in all of my like studies and ventures that that is a consistent thread. And it's this kind of seemingly illogical thing, because you're like, well, I'm wanting to go higher, so then I should keep on like going up on the steps. And it's really part of going higher is integrating and bringing with us those other parts, as well as deconstructing the ones that don't work. So I love that as a soul development skill. Okay, there's still so much that I want to go into. Let's start talking about your course and what that's about, and what inspired you to create it.
Okay, so yeah, so I have a new course called The Art of Conscious Awakening. And really, this course comes from like this deep impulse from my soul that I've honestly had for years. And years ago, it was like, there's something new. I want to create something. I want to bring through something that will really help support and empower people. Years ago, I didn't know what that was. Fast forward, in my journey, you mentioned that we've both explored different cultures and traditions and lineages. In the past few years, I've gotten really into Kriya yoga and working with the yogic stream and school of thought and practices in conjunction with, I've been a longtime student of Rudolf Steiner and that like classical Grail and European initiation stream, and really like studying how there are these systems for initiation. And initiation is one of those words that has like shadow work. It could mean like 12 different things depending
Totally.
on who you're talking to, which is one of the challenges with spirituality in general. It's like, okay, we're going to talk about this topic. Let's define every word we're talking about so we're all on the same page. But initiation can refer to a threshold moment, stepping into the new world. It can refer to being welcomed into a mystery school, into a group. It can be the transmission of consciousness. Initiation can be that like mind-blowing experience of I am divine. And then also initiation can be seen as the path of conscious awakening, the initiation journey, the journey of moving from ordinary consciousness into enlightenment, essentially, another word that, what does it even mean? But into that state of mastery. And through that initiation journey, across cultures, across initiation streams, across traditions, there's different rituals, practices, techniques, and then there's common threads. And so what I am doing in the Art of Conscious Awakening course is sort of illuminating how this all works, what initiation really is, and then what those key pillars are for a system to journey from a relative sleeping state to being frighteningly awake. And that phrase comes from a book I love. I know I've seen you mention it. It's Atlantean Secrets by Samuel Sagan, who I'm totally like Samuel Sagan fangirl over here.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, he refers to like one of the masters as frighteningly awake. And it's like that awareness. And the reason it was like there was that frighteningly word is that master just could see so much, could peer right through you. So if you're in a sleep state, it's a little intense to be with someone who's like that awake and that open and that turned on, because it's catalyzing. And so in this Art of Awakening journey, I was inspired to share both knowledge and esoteric teachings to catch people up, to refresh, to just share all that I've learned in the past years of studying spiritual science and initiation and mystery school teachings. I do think that intellectual understanding is important because it can help to define, it can help to contain or help us to distinguish what experiences mean when we have them.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also share the practices and methods to actually progress, to actually have the experiences, to see for yourself, know for yourself, because I believe that the age of looking to a guru or priest or other spiritual authority figure for learning how it all works, that age is over. We're in the transition still, but we're moving into this new age and new paradigm where we each have the opportunity to know, to experience for ourselves. And how we get there is not a mystery. There are proven practices, meditations, techniques that, when implemented over and over, move you along this journey. It's not a pop a magical pill and you're there. You can't, unfortunately, and we won't even go there. I was gonna say I'd do it, but no, like if you, and this is maybe a bit of a tangent, but if you ingest something and have a mind-blowing spiritual experience, that's great. But can you then truly embody that level of consciousness within your physicality? Maybe, maybe not. The thing that I love about inner transformation, inner techniques with breath work, with meditation, with visualization, with mantra, with all of these technologies for awakening, is that they become tools in your tool belt. So you don't need anything external in order to shift. You don't need anything external in order to navigate the challenges of the 3D world, because we're in this time of massive challenge. And in many senses, it's probably just getting started. There's probably going to be a lot more being revealed. And if you have the tools, if you're well resourced to be able to handle that, it's going to be a lot less suffering.
Mm.
Suffering that comes from the ego mind is optional, but it doesn't always seem like that because it's so easy to get pulled into those spirals. So that's kind of the essence of why I created the Art of Conscious Awakening course. And it's also like I've received so much on my path. And like the practices I'm doing now are just so beautiful and so expansive. And I want to start being able to share a lot of what I'm doing, but there are foundations that are required to get there in order to be able to carry the energy, to receive the transmission in a way that's not super disruptive. Because, like we talked about earlier, in that deconstruction, if you blast up really high, really fast, it can bring all your shit to the surface. And then it's like hard to function in normal waking life. So,
Mm-hmm.
the Art of Conscious Awakening is like these are things, these are methods that you can do day in and day out, and then it takes actually doing them. But when you do these practices, when you do the contemplation, there's real progression and powerful growth, claiming this point in time, this impulse for awakening from source to really, really evolve, transform, become who you're meant to be as a soul in the physical. Because we do all have unique purposes, flavors of how we want to embody and express the light. And I really feel that each of us as human beings coming into coherence and harmony with that, me in my authenticity, standing in my power, embodying my soul, shining my light, Bridget, you doing that, everyone who's listening or watching doing that, that's world changing. That actually changes everything. And that's why we're here as star seeds, as souls, as divine beings in physical form. So that's the journey of conscious awakening.
Beautiful. And yeah, I absolutely agree. Oh, there's a lot I want to say on that. If you're interested in this, the link is down below, and there's a special coupon code that Melanie has for my audience that you can go access for 1 week. So be sure to go check that out and take her up on this. I wanted her to talk about this specifically because one of the things that I've learned on my path is we need support and guidance. And it's different than giving all of your power and energy to a guru, and that age has ended. But there is something to going on a tried and true path. Like if you're going on a hike, we go on hikes all the time. It's like, where's the trail? And which trail really works and gets you to this place? And we go on that trail. We don't just haphazardly go randomly. And of course, we have our own inner listening, and that's very important to cultivate and develop. And there's fast tracks, like Mario Kart status, anyone, where it's like, this just really does work. And having that support to take you through these deeper the initiation path, but these deeper processes that's not too much too fast, and it's a design. And I think that that's so important to understand because again, in spiritual awakening 1.0, it was just like push the eject button and just like go have that crazy experience. But in 2.0, Jedis don't do that. We're with Yoda in the bog for like a long time, cultivating these certain things, and that's really, really important and essential. And so I'm so grateful that you've put this together. And with everything, Melanie is incredibly devoted to her practices. I can't even believe it. And then also, just like a very deep diver where she can just digest and move through information and gather like so well. So she has like both of those components. And so I'm just really excited for anyone that is wanting to go to this next level, because it's very important. And having that support and that direction, that guidance, those practices is really everything. And in this, I agree that things are just ramping up and probably going to continue to be chaotic and deconstructing in the collective of what we need to move through. And I've been watching Star Wars, so I'm kind of on like a Star Wars analogy kick. But you know, in that series, it's like the last Jedi. There's still one Jedi, so that means we're gonna be okay because the light is sustained. And if we can be in these cultivation practices where we can be hyper resilient to these massive energetic things happening and humanity chaos things happening, and we can have many of us be Jedis, not just I'm awake and I'm aware, but resilient. And then not only being able to handle it, but then being able to proactively give, serve, show up, hold space, spread light. That is everything, like you said. And so we're needing that. I think that like I'm hearing this like higher call right now. It's like, okay, ready for the next level. Like it's time for the next level. And it makes all the difference, you know, even just few of us doing this. So thank you for creating it and putting all of that together.
Yeah, and I just love what you said about like the going for a hike. And it's like if someone right now is like, all right, you're going to get dropped off in the middle of Alaska for an epic wilderness adventure. Would you like to go alone or would you like a wilderness guide? Like, yeah, a wilderness team of guides, please. So
Totally.
the same is true for this spiritual journey. Like we're entering a new consciousness. Do you want to leverage people who have been in this path for a while? Do you want to leverage guides to help you go ahead? And then one other thing that came up for me while you were sharing, Bridget, is I see from time to time people who are like, this is my last life. Life is too hard. I'm not coming back to Earth. And I think one of the keys about that, and if you feel that way, know that the way to opt out of the cycle of reincarnation
Yes.
is through having the inner skills to be able to be fully conscious through your death process, to journey on the other side of the veil, conscious and awake to make that choice. You can declare that from the perspective of your ego and personality now in times of struggle and challenge. I don't want to do this again, but that's not when you decide. So that's one of the blessings of developing these inner skills, is there is an opportunity within physical incarnation, within this life, to develop the energetic structures within your physical and subtle bodies that cannot be developed after life. So that's why we're here, is to have this development that we then bring with us after death. And if you really don't want to come back to Earth, let that be a motivation to get to the level while you're on Earth where then you can make that conscious choice. Because without awareness, then you cross the veil and a guide comes and you do your life review and they give you the opportunity to go back to make things better. And without consciousness, you're like, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll go back. So this work benefits life in the physical, but far beyond that, it also journeys with us beyond this incarnation into the realms of spirit and into our next lives. So it's
I'm so glad you brought that up, especially for the younger generations, you know, and those that are challenged that are like, screw this. And it's like, well, that's nice, but you're going to become an earthbound spirit with that kind of attitude. And I mean, I know about that, you know, soul development and thus then being able to consciously die. But for some reason, hearing it the other way, where this is an opportunity to develop those things, it's like, oh gosh, this is the playing ground. Like, do you want to, you know, play this game and develop these skills? Because maybe you're not going to be able to somewhere else. I think is really a nice reframe of human life here, where it's like, okay, let's build these skills. One of the things that a lot of us that have experienced the initial awakening have these recalls of other lifetimes or have these skills where that are already online. It's like, oh, you already kind of have some of these skills from other lifetimes. And actually, some of them come from trauma and childhood too. But I think as an honoring of what you've done as a soul in other times, it's almost like a duty. I feel that, at least. I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. All those lifetimes, like I was a priestess or doing this thing or that thing, so that I can be here and be a bit more available, or already have like gone through a couple levels in certain categories, so that I can build on something. And so just in this moment, I'm thinking about how honoring it is of the greater soul and these other times, to be like, okay, now I'm going to do something in this time to give to then my future self, that was like, wow, I can really draw upon that old earth life that I had, because I went so deep and went so far with that. So I think that there's, yeah, I love bringing in that bigger scope to this whole thing, to create that inspiration and depth and meaning to it.
Yeah, that's so great. And when you were sharing that, it was like, yeah. And for those of us who resonate as being star seeds, of having this highly evolved aspect of self, whether it's higher self or future self or past self, that like that, all that soul wisdom, all that, those skills and resources are available. They exist in the Akashic record, they exist in the energy field. And now we can cultivate the right conditions within our physical vessel, within this present timeline, within this dense material physical reality, for those seeds of supreme consciousness to grow. So the seeds are already present within, but just like a little seed you plant in your garden, if you plant the seed and then don't water it and block it off from the sunlight, it's not going to grow. So for us, knowing that the seeds of our divinity are within us, and if we only cultivate those seeds through breath, through meditation, through practice, through taking care of the physical body, bringing the right nutrients and removing toxins, so those seeds can grow. It's really it's empowering. I feel it's empowering. We have what we need. It's just about, like, the world is so distracting. So having the discipline to put the phone down and do the meditation, to turn off distractions and do what is actually important at the soul level.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because you know that we're both big on that. Some of those lifestyle pieces, some of those lifestyle disciplines, and real choices, that you've made that have made a difference, because it is showing up to the mat, it is showing up, for the spiritual practice, but it is also what you're allowing in, like where you're putting your energy and focus. What have been some of the things, because you've changed your lifestyle a lot, that are supportive and enhance this cultivation of your soul?
Yeah, one of the big changes I've made in my past, I was very nomadic and lived in cities and was like always traveling. And I realized, like, in my nervous system, I needed to change that. And so I actually moved, like, in the middle of the woods. I'm completely surrounded by nature. I have this gigantic garden, and that nature piece is so essential. In Rudolf Steiner's teachings, he talks about how grounding to the earth, how being with the earth, being with nature, is this essential grounding for our etheric body and also for our mental body. That, especially now where we're so connected via technology, and there's this like conscious buzz of intellectual teachings, of random teachings, of videos, just so much information. If we're not connecting with nature, for me anyway, it's hard to like ground all of that. So for me, the nature piece is so essential. Bridget, you've been a huge inspiration for me on like the diet. I feel like you're like, I was always like pretty healthy and pretty clean with my diet. And then meeting you and like how like on it and disciplined you were with like what you allow and what you don't allow in your body. I've definitely leveled up there. So being really deliberate about what I put in my mouth, what I ingest media wise. And that's not to say to ignore the challenges that are happening in the world, to be mindful. I am deliberate of being mindful of where I get information, but I do look at what's happening. I look at conspiracy theories, that kind of thing. Having the focus of the mind to not spiral in those things, having awareness of my energy field so I'm not taking on energy from others, all that's so essential. So diet, nature, exercise, movement, when it comes down to it, everything matters, and we're all in sort of different places. So I think that's where like going into your heart and asking yourself, like, what have you been saying you should do, or what do you like really know would benefit your situation but you aren't doing? Do that. And then just kind of keep asking your soul, ask your body consciousness, how can I serve you better? I love you, I appreciate you, I honor you, and listen to that inner intuition and guidance as to how you can thrive more fully in life. And for me, while I am, as I said, living in the woods now, I've realized for this next stage, my soul is like, okay, you've been doing this deep, deep inner work and transformation, and now it's time to be in the world more and build more community and friendships. And so in the next months, I'm going to be making more changes and weaving more of that in. So it is like an evolution and an unfolding for me through just continuing to ask, like, okay, with where I am now, how can I support myself? And then a key for that is, what is the intention? Where are you trying to go? If you don't know your intention, then it doesn't matter how you get there. But if you know where you're going, if you have that clear intention, then you can be like, okay, well, what supports that and what doesn't? It's a powerful way to support discernment in being really clear and deliberate. So like my continued awakening and inner mastery is so important to me. And so if there's an opportunity to go to a party really late at night, and I'm like, no, that if I go to that, I'm not going to want to do my meditation practice in the morning. But meeting up for tea, yeah, I'm all about that. So
Yeah, you are.
refinement.
I'm hearing in that, which I think deconstructing, or like also just seeing where these things come in, is the exposure to these other supportive, so nature's being your support, and then exposure to certain like people, like if there's things that aren't, that you're upgrading, and say like me with the food, it's like upgrade, or like me with you and Miles, like you guys upgrade my life in so many ways. So I think surrounding yourself by that thing that you want to become, but you, like you were just saying, have to decide what that is. Otherwise, you're just working in reaction to what the world says or what your programs say versus proactively creating it. And because will force is, I think, one of your great strengths, which is something that you wouldn't necessarily like highlight, but it is one of your great strengths. Can you talk about will force and how that developing that can and will assist these things, like of integrating these really supportive pieces in lifestyle and soul cultivation?
Yeah, great idea. I'll just lead in by saying that there's a lot of esoteric teachings around, where does the soul actually anchor into our physicality? Where do we actually embody the soul through? And there's three main energy centers to embody soul. It's the pineal gland in the center of your mind, that cave of Brahma where you remember I am. It's the heart, that center of love, of soul, of compassion. And then there's the willpower center, the Hara energy center, the place where you're able to anchor divine inspiration into creative action, to act from soul rather than from ego, to create in alignment with soul in life. And so one of the great practices that I sort of just glossed over, but we'll dive into a little bit more, one of a great way to develop willpower, and I invite everyone listening to do this, is to think of what is something in your life that you've been putting off, that you've been telling yourself, I really should do that, but you're just not doing it. Maybe you've been knowing that a daily meditation practice will support you, but you're not doing it. Make the choice now to meditate tomorrow morning. Or if it's like you really need to, I don't know, whatever it is, you need to do something for your taxes, or you really need to call your mom and you just aren't calling your mom and you've been saying I should, declaring to yourself, I am going to take this action. Now, tomorrow, when you actually take that action, your willpower center builds. When we say we're going to do things and then don't do them, it weakens the willpower center. So being impeccable with your word is excellent for the throat chakra, of course, but also for the willpower center. And then, yeah, I think for me, like discipline is just something that comes as a result of being really clear and understanding where I'm headed, and knowing that doing my morning meditation practice, being of service in the world, doing my work, all of those things move me in the direction of the goal. So why journey on the path of spiritual awakening? Why do the meditation practice? Why do this work? Why have the discipline? And we've already like talked about it, but it's so you can thrive in physical reality. It's so you can clear your mental and emotional body. It's so you can develop these subtle energy centers that allow you to perceive beyond the realms of the physical, to experience the divine in a very real, empowered, embodied way, and to know for yourself, to see for yourself what the sages and mystics and spiritual teachers have taught over lifetimes. This is the why. Now, if this matters to you, if that excites you, if you want to grow and become who your soul truly envisioned you could be in this lifetime, be clear about that. Claim that. Know that you're worth it. Know that you can choose this for yourself, and then back it up with action, with just that commitment and resolve to, I am moving in the direction of embodying my highest soul truth in physical form, day in and day out, one moment at a time. And you slip up, that's okay. Judgment cements in that lower energy. So don't judge yourself, just let it go, return to the path. I think in meditation, it's like quiet the mind, find the space between thoughts. And then when a thought arises, just let it go. If you drop your meditation, just return to it, return to the breath, return to the practice. And in the Art of Awakening course, we do some specific breathing exercises with the Hara Energy Center. So we can develop energy centers through consciousness or through energy. I talk more about that in the course, but one of the easiest ways is to just start, just do it. Just claim the power of will. It is innate. And it's on the other side of like putting down distractions, of recognizing that there always is a choice. Like if you want to lose weight, but you keep buying Oreo cookies at the store, like just stop buying Oreo cookies. And next time when you're at the store, you'll notice like, I want to put the Oreo cookies in my cart, but you have a choice, and like put the Oreo cookies back on the shelf. Don't need that. And yeah, so willpower is very powerful, and I do think it's weakened within humanity as a whole, but it's also so accessible and it's able to be built quickly through that commitment and
Mm-hmm.
intention.
Beautiful. I think that it's absolutely essential. It might not be as popular to talk about, but I just really wanted you to talk about it because you have yours very developed. And it is something I think very innate to humanity. Like, think about, I mean, even a few generations ago, oh my God, like the willpower, of our ancestors or those that came before us. It's like, God, they like worked so hard or like really showed up in like these certain ways, good and bad, but like there was a real resilience in that, and we can tap back into that. And I think that we're recovering, like maybe other pendulums swing with humanity and kind of like, oh my God, okay, I can breathe. I don't have to walk to school up and down 5 miles in the snow, like that whole thing. But not being too easy because there's that self care kind of, oh, just do what feels good to you thing, that I think is one of those programs that's like anti-will. And then people can go too hard and gung ho. So it's all comes back to balance and that listening. But I love that. Thank you for those techniques and approaches to the will.
Yeah, it is an important concept, and I think it's one of those things where like that is pretty like for whatever reason, I guess for a past life, probably like I did already have that center very developed. So it's been like very just effortless for me to be like, oh, you're supposed and I won't even say that. I started to say effortless to like do a meditation practice every day, but I wasn't always there. There was a point 5 years ago where I was like, no, I'm never going to skip meditating in a day again. And I just decided that. And I didn't even realize it until recently this whole situation came up. And it was like, whoa, I've literally been meditating every day without missing for over 5 years. And
Dang.
it, yeah, and it has changed my life and it's changed my perception, and what I think of as meditation now is completely different from when I started. It gets much easier, it gets much more magical, but all of that comes through that consistent repetition and dedication and devotion. And I think, yeah, I think devotion is
Mm.
a really powerful concept as well. Discipline. I love discipline. I'm disciplined with my morning meditation practice, but I have that discipline because I'm devoted to my soul. I know that my soul came here with a mission and I'm devoted. I love my soul. I honor my soul, and I'm here to embody that through the discipline. So if like discipline's feeling hard, like what are you devoted to? What do you value? We have this opportunity to choose ourselves, and media and social media pull us in all these different directions. And I think really can weaken the energetic field. I know we've talked so much about this, about noticing, okay, I'm doing some scrolling of like, wow, I just like dropped a lot in vibration. Let me do something now to counteract that and build my life force energy back up. So with awareness, it all becomes easier and easier. But developing expanded awareness takes time, commitment, consistency. It's not like the one time thing of like, aha, oh, it was here all along. I'm fully embodied now. It is this journey of returning to it. So
Mm. I love the devotion as a higher why, versus like discipline kind of seems like kind of stays in the human realm. It can, depending on how people define that, right? And I mean, there are will aspects developed in other categories that I'm sure everyone has, and this is what I've leaned into a lot. And I mean, it's like your will of how much discipline you had, say, with like sports growing up. I'm sure that translates. Like you developed will in some category and then it can translate to another category. And I've found that being an entrepreneur, you have to have a lot of willpower because you're driving the whole thing yourself. And then, so that like has cultivated will for me. And then I had cultivated will in fitness from dance growing up, and then in food, it was just easy. But then there's these certain categories where I don't have as much will, and like there's a development needed. And then in those spaces, I'm like, okay, I need support. I need to have someone else's maybe even willpower help me get into that momentum to do that. And I think that that's what courses, that's what like coaches, that's what friends can like assist in that building process in addition. But you've built will in many ways over the years.
Yeah, and I even started saying that, like, I put myself through college playing basketball in a previous timeline, and like in order to get there, there was a massive amount of discipline. So it was when it came time to build build a business, and like, oh, you have to like consistently publish content. I'm like, oh, okay, that's how you get there. Yeah, I can do that, consistently publish content. Now it's like, oh, there's expanded levels of mastery and elevated consciousness to reach, and to get there you just do these daily practices and they usher you, okay, I can do those daily practices. So that's where I get really clear about why. I get really clear about what is my intention, what do I really desire, and then it's like, of course I'm going to do what it takes to move on the path towards what I like really want. And that really want at the level of soul, at the level of heart, that pull of love, because there is also willpower that's driven by ego of
Right.
like, I want to be a billionaire. And okay, look at the studies. Billionaires on average are not happy. What is the soul mission, purpose, and then being devoted and disciplined in what moves you along that path is kind of how.
I really feel that and felt that in what you just said, and that echoed back to our time before you started this deeper layer of your initiation journey when we were on that hike in Sedona. And you're like, it was, I could hear and feel that you had made a soul choice. And it was like, this is my North Star. This is my Polaris. This is my compass now of the soul. The other things I'll make sure that I'm taking responsibility for. Like I'll do my responsibilities as needed, but it was a complete redirective course directed by soul. And that was the first step that I saw you take. You know, you're like, I'm not going to be kind of tempted, also tempted or driven by these other things that are of ego. I'm choosing soul. So I just commend you for that. And also just like to share and to edify what you've been saying of like, okay, soul choice, and really getting clear on that. So good job. And I thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I love that you remember that moment.
Oh yeah.
And also I'll just say that getting to that moment, there was a lot of work.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, if you're like, but I don't know what my soul is here for, I don't know what my soul purpose is, let the purpose be to remember. There's this
Mm.
Christian saying, in the beginning was the remembering. Like you have to remember why you're here in order to do your soul work. And you can remember why you're here by doing the work, doing the practices, doing the meditations. So it's a journey to get to the beginning of the next journey.
Beautiful. And that I think that can be like a quote confusing space because you're in this intermediary mystery realm of unknown, you know, and I think that is where maybe people get, you know, caught up and they're like, ah, and then you define and go sync on to something else. So I think staying in that mystery, which of course the spiritual practices helps with, is being in that place. Well, I've loved this. Anything else you want to share before we close up here?
I think I'll just share that it's been really empowering for me in my path to get clear on the methods that lead to expanded consciousness. So if anyone is in that place of not knowing, of being in that liminal space where it feels like the old world is crumbling and falling away. I'll also take a step back and say that Bridget and I have both been on a spiritual awakening journey for like over a decade now. And so when we're talking about this phase 2 of awakening, that's not to discount anyone's initial awakening experience or to discount like where you are in your life. I think in many senses, the Art of Awakening course that I've made is the course I wish I would have found early on in my awakening journey, because there, for me, was a lot of fumbling around in the dark, like trying to find the path. And so now where I'm now, it's like, wow, these are the methods that really move you along this path. This is the ancient technology of awakening brought through by yogis and mystics and wisdom holders across eons. They've preserved this. And in the past, this technology of awakening was veiled and it was hidden from humanity. It was only available to a select few within these small mystery circles, inner circles. But we're not in ancient times anymore. We are in this time of transition where there's an impulse for source for all of humanity to awaken. So everyone on the planet now has this opportunity. The tools are here, the teachings are available, the doors to the mystery schools are blown wide open, but the distraction is bigger than ever before. There's more distraction than ever before. So it's like simultaneously this emergence of like all the wisdom and magic is here for you. But look at this shiny object. And oh, look, AI. Oh, look, social media. Oh, Instagram. Oh, have you been on TikTok? Did you see what they're talking about on TikTok over there? Wait, mystery schools. So that's where we have the choice, this choice point. Do you choose to claim what's available to you from spirit, the mystery, the inner world, the light, or do you choose a life of materiality to perpetuate separation, to spiritual material, love, fear. Love is the path I'm choosing, consciously returning to. It is a choice. I'm not perfect. I get pulled in all sorts of directions too, but that commitment to the path is so powerful. So if you don't have that, then know that it's not too late to get clear about what you really desire and cultivate and call that forth. And I'd love to connect, if you feel drawn to my course. And of course, Bridget is such an impeccable guide and just wonderful ally too. I can't recommend her work enough. So thank you for having me on. It's been fun to talk about. And really, I had created this course and then I've just been in such deep inner work and transformation myself. This is my first video about it. So thanks for the opportunity to share and talk about it a little more. This has been fun to share what's like been in my heart around this. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I've been honored to be witness to it as like your close friend, where, I think it's like, is it just me and Miles that have really seen like the whole thing? I mean, a few others too, but I'm like, I feel like I was there right at the beginning of the choice point, and then I'm like seeing this just even more beautiful version of you like showing up and being embodied, and I'm just like, this needs to be documented and shared. And yeah, I just am celebrating you and absolutely inviting others to this place because I'm with you. I'm like, geez, I wish I would have I had guides, I had tools at the beginning of awakening, probably some pretty good ones too. But gosh, I mean, you can just move past so much muck right away. And that's the gift of, kind of being on this wave of awakening or just coming into this information now. And it's only your own veil at this point that's separating you from the open doors of mystery schools and all that you need. So yeah, I definitely recommend Melanie's course, and again, the link's below, and you've got a special coupon code for a week. I'll have the dates there because this will air and be watched at different times. So anyways, thank you so much, Melanie. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate your friendship and everything that you're doing for the world. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And same. Yeah, our meeting I know is like by no mistake. And I think it's even a just one of those like beautiful symbols of that in it can be scary in the awakening journey when stuff starts falling away, when friendships no longer work, when like entire areas of life crumble and fall. But through that deconstruction and not holding on to what has been, but like letting it go and fall away, trusting that it's making way for new. And you're my shiny new, I mean, not new, but you know, that, yeah, your friendship has been just so heartwarming and enriching and beautiful in my life. And I'm so grateful for you and fun to connect here and share. And I'll look forward to the future podcast where we'll get to record in the same location.
Yeah, that'll be great, won't it? Yeah, and I think that I hope that this can be a modeling to others to know that, like, yeah, as these deconstructions happening, as your life changes, actually, there's even greater matches of friendship and love and all these things that are waiting for you on the other side. So, as a modeling where it's not like, oh yeah, you do this and then you're alone. It's like, no, actually you get even like deeper, richer friendships and good things. It is all available for you. So
Absolutely. It's not necessarily instant. Like there is that messy middle where the old's gone and the new feels so far away. And you're like, what have I done? Am I ever going to make it through this? And then that's where do the meditation, do the practice, cultivate light in your inner world, build the inner skills. And through that, the external world then does change and unfold, and so many blessings do align, sometimes at a little slower pace than we might hope for. So that's where patience is also key, but it's well worth it. The awakening journey is not easy, but it's so worth it.
absolutely, totally well worth it. So, anyways, thank you so much, Melanie, and thanks everyone for watching and listening, and we will see you next time.